G'day everyone, welcome back to another Catch Up with Kiralee. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kiralee, and on this channel we discuss all things cosplay, costuming and sewing related. So today's video is a bit of a fun and a bit of a casual one, and what we will be doing is breaking down my next cosplay. I have about a month and a half to make this, and frankly, I am concerned. But we will steam ahead and we will try and get it done in time for Supernova, which, you know, if the COVID decides that it doesn't want to rear its ugly head again here in Perth, should be happening at the end of June. So the cosplay I'm planning on doing is this one that I've got right down here, which I've got camera B shot on. And it is King Candy from the Wreck-It Ralph series, and it is by the amazing Sunset Dragon. It is a Genderbent version and I absolutely love this. When I saw this when it first came out, I was like, yes, that is a villain that I want to do. I'm not a huge villain lover, but I just love the colors of this. It is so beautiful and it is so much work. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it done all in a month and a half, but I am going to do my darndest to try and make it happen. So the reason why you want to break down a cosplay like we're about to do before you begin is because you need to know all the different elements that need to go into this. You need to think about the fabric choices, the embellishments, how you're going to create that silhouette, and where things should be connecting, because sometimes in reference images, as we're about to find out, it doesn't always make sense. So you have to figure out how to make them make sense before you start. So come with me as I break down this cosplay. So the very first thing that we can see here is the fact that she has a grey wig. So with this grey wig, what we're going to say is with this one, I am going to use a grey wig that I've already got in my stash, which is actually an Elsa wig, I think, but it's just way too grey to be Elsa in my opinion. So I'm going to cut it and I'm going to give it a little bit of a curl hopefully, but it should do the trick. Because I already know that I'm going to be buying a fair bit for this, so where I can cut the costs, I will be. The other thing before we get to the rest of the cosplay is her headpiece. So we've got this crown and we've also got this headband with little sweets on it. There's 5 different sweets there. I actually plan on making these out of foam and foam clay and then painting them up. I think that that will look really, really cool. And if they're made out of foam, it does mean that it's going to be light, which frankly, if you've ever worn something heavy on your head all day on top of a wig, it sucks. So foam it is. Okay, so moving down, we've got this cute little Bolero, which frankly, I adore. Anyone who has watched my channel knows that I love a cute Bolero, like, with puff sleeves, love it. So with this one, I will be utilizing my Bolero pattern that I have already created and then just kind of mixing it up a little bit just to make it a little bit more like this. So when it comes time to making this, I'll need to make sure that I pattern it out to include the 2 different colors. So 2 colors. That's right, I spell colors with a U because I'm Australian, not American. What's more is that we also have these little gold pieces which will be appliqued on. Spelling is hard sometimes. But then what's more is that we do have more applique right here, okay? So there is a gold applique above it which are in the triangles. So we'll have the applique down here, but then the other thing is that it looks like I will do a white kind of cuff that is in this kind of shape here, and then I'll have the purple applique on top of it. Then here we have, it looks like beads maybe, but I might do that in some other form. I can't think of anything else here at this point in time. Beads will probably work quite nicely and it'll be quite easy. And then we've got this tiny little layer of white lace. Already we can see that in these sleeves, there's a whole lot of detailing that needs to occur, which frankly, it excites me, but it also scares me because I know how long each of these elements are going to take. The other thing that I'm already realizing is that I'm going to need 2 different types of applique. So I'm going to make a little note here, 2 types of applique. Okay. And the reason for this is that there's one that is sewable, okay, which means that you can do a really cool satin stitching on the edge and make it look really, really spec, or you can do non-sewable, which is easier, but also it gives a very clean edge. So the thing that I have found when I am using those two personally is that the ones that are going to be here will probably look better as the non-sewable and it's nice and clean, it's just the fabric, where the ones that are actually built into the sleeves will look better if it's sewable and it's got the satin stitching. The other thing is that if we have a look here on the Bolero, we have some more applique that will need to go on there. And with that, with all the corners and that, I'm not sure what kind of applique that will be best. I think that I'll need to do some testers out of the two of them and figure that out a little bit later on. But I know that that's going to be applique as well. So that right there is just the Bolero, and you can see that even with that tiny little piece that is literally just here, it is going to be intense. However, kind of not quite attached to the Bolero, but somewhat attached to the Bolero, is this crazy collar. So with the collar, what it's going to be is it's going to have some kind of buckram and maybe some wiring to get it to stand up. It will need to be shaped. So this will be 2 layers of a white fabric with a buckram center. And I think then I'm going to do this as applique, and that will be the non-sewable applique. So that way I can get those features going around without causing too much of an issue. And then all of that will be on a base, I believe, which will then come together and be hidden by this red bow. And I think that I'll make that freestanding of the Bolero. I might connect it with some like press studs or something like that, just to keep it from shifting around too much. But I think that I'm going to keep them as 2 separate pieces. So that is everything kind of here up. So let's move on to the corset. So the corset is going to be interesting. So we've got a sweetheart neckline, which is really cute. I love that feature. I think it's very, very flattering and beautiful. We also have here some pink lace, or pink or coral lace, which is cool. It only needs to be in the front. It doesn't need to go all the way around. And we'll discuss that in a moment why. But then we also have the white frill, which seems to have these pink love hearts on it, which will probably be sewable applique. I can't spell. And then we have these 2 buttons here as well. And I think that these ones will probably be fabric covered buttons, which I'll need to make, because those will need to match the hearts that are within the skirt, which we're going to come to. We also have the feature of having these 2 light pink panels down the side. So those will either be built into the corset itself, or they will be appliqued on top. My gut feeling is that I will need to pattern that into the corset and then sew that into the corset itself. The lines for the rest of the corset are not shown, but I'm going to make it using a pretty standard pattern because the fit needs to be pretty darn good. We also have some applique detailing down here. And then we've got the border, which will be sewable applique as well. So before we move on to the skirt, there's one thing that I want to address, and that is this tailcoat thing that's hanging down. So King Candy in his outfit wears a tailcoat, but the tailcoat has been fashioned into this Bolero, which makes me go joyful. Now, there's nothing to suggest that the Bolero moves into a crazy kind of thin back and then goes out to a tailcoat. And frankly, I think that that would look really, really strange. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to take some artistic liberties here. And I'm actually going to do the back paneling of the corset to kind of build into this and then out into the tailcoat. I'll need to play around with that, but basically using these colors that are in the Bolero, both for the lining and also the outer layers of this corset, will be really, really needed. I'm going to play around with that. I'll have to mock it up because the thing is that if that doesn't work, I might actually need to just include it within the skirt. In fact, as I'm talking it and thinking about how it's going to look, I think it's probably better that I keep the corset separate and I actually build it into the skirt. So let's move on to the skirt, shall we? And this right here is why it's so important that you do your thinking about how you're going to construct something before you jump into it. All right, so the skirt. The skirt is that old school pumpkin skirt kind of look. It's puffy, it kind of gathers up down the bottom. I remember when I worked in a dress shop very, very briefly that this was kind of a rage and a thing, and we called them pumpkin skirts, and they're just so ugly. I've never really liked this look, but I think it's perfect for the Candy King because he is puffing himself up, and he is all pretend. He's an absolute villain, and he's great. So with this, we've got a circle skirt essentially on the top, which is then gathered and then sewn underneath to a straight skirt. That is the way that I think is going to be the best way to construct this. And then on the inside, I'll also have some stuffing, or rather I will create like a tulle, almost petticoat insert that will then help puff up the bottom and kind of give that roundness effect. So let me make some notes now. So the other thing that I've identified is that there are these 3 hearts that go down, and they're 3 different shades of red. Fabulous. So that will be something that I will need to figure out, and I will do those with sewable applique because those will look really nice as a satin stitch, and because it will be a callback to what's on the frill and what's on the corset. So I think it is important that we do that as a sewable applique. Okay, moving on to the tailcoat side of things. So with this one, I think what this will be is that it will be a panel at the back that will be on top of the skirt itself. That will be in the colors of the Bolero, just to kind of bring it back into there. And so this one will be, I think what I'll be doing here, I'll need to figure it out, but if it's going to be one piece, this part here may need to be an applique. So down the bottom here, we've got this gold ball, and frankly, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to create that, because with balls, what you're doing is you're creating a 3D object that's then being attached to fabric, which in itself is not great. But the other issue that you have is that you can't have something too heavy, otherwise what happens is that it pulls the rest of your fabric down, or if you have something that's too light, it may look flimsy and it may break depending on the material that you're using. So I'm going to have a little bit of a think about this one and play around to figure out what I'm going to do for those edges, because I'm really not sure at the moment. So I'm just going to put gold ball ? So the last thing about this costume that I want to talk about is the shoes. So what we have here is we have some purple pumps, which I'll need to find, or I will need to paint. We'll see. And then on top of it, they've got these round red balls. So I have a feeling that whatever I decide for the tailcoat, I will replicate that and put it on those shoes. I would be so tempted to do pom-poms. Honestly, I would. But then I think that would actually make it look all tacky, but it would be really comfortable to wear. Sometimes cosplay is painful, but so is beauty, right? Okay, so that's the crazy outfit in a nutshell, but there's one more thing that we haven't discussed yet, and that is the candy cane walking stick. This, in theory, should not be difficult. But if experience has taught me anything, it's that the things that look the easiest turn out to sometimes be the most difficult. I'm not someone who has done a lot of props within their cosplay. I have in fact only made, I think, 1 or 2 props for all of the cosplays that I've ever made. So this will be a lovely little adventure for me. It looks like it should be, being the operative word there, or words, should be quite simple. And that is simply because it's a stick that is kind of the candy cane wrapped. So that can be achieved, I think, probably by masking tape and then, you know, spraying it the right colors. So stick. And then on top of which we have this little candy piece. Now, I think with this one, if I was to use it as a walking stick, I need to figure out whether I want to use it as a walking stick or if I want it to be a bit shorter, which it kind of looks like it is. It doesn't look like it's a full walking stick kind of cane sort of thing here. It looks more like a scepter or something. Is if I want to make the top hard, because how that could be achieved is maybe something like some sort of hard ball in the middle there, and then having warbler draped over the top and then kind of squished up to give that wrapper effect, and then obviously painting it and making it pretty. So that would make it a nice hard top and a potential weapon. The other thing about the cane is that I might make it a little bit smaller because of the fact that if I'm taking it over to Sydney, I want to be able to fit it into my suitcase. So that might actually be my end measurement. The other thing that I'm not quite sure about will be the back of the corset. I usually do like a zipper or something like that, but I think I might actually do this as a lace up, because my weight is fluctuating a bit at the moment and I'm about to go on a big diet, which I'm excited for, so hopefully I can get rid of some of this COVID weight, which I feel like a whole lot of us have kind of put on. So I kind of want to do the corset back as, well, the back as a corset, so that way it can be somewhat adjustable. And I'm even thinking that the skirt might be done as a elasticated waist, or it might be a fixed waist in the back and then elasticated around the front, because of the fact that this panel I want it to lay smooth, but we can even see here that there are gathers to that skirt itself. So I don't think necessarily that that is completely fitted. So with that, we have the outfit planned. I've been able to put everything onto paper, that which I need to remember. I feel less overwhelmed, but also still incredibly intimidated. There's a lot of work to go into this, and I'm not sure I'm going to get it done all within a month and a half, but we'll just give it a crack. And if it's not all done, then I'll just rewear one of my costumes that I've got in my closet, and I will try and get it done for the next convention, whenever that may be, whether it be Sydney in September or whether it will be next year AusComicCon Perth. Who knows? But I really love this design. I want to give it a crack, and I really, really want to do another cosplay because it's been a while since I've done a proper cosplay. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. I hope that you enjoyed it. I also want to dedicate this particular video to my wonderful patrons who see so much of this behind the scenes stuff on my Instagram as a close friends, and also in my monthly videos that I have just for them. So it's cool to be able to share this with the general audience as well. But to my patrons, thank you so much for all of the love and support that you do show me. And I definitely want to give a special shout out to my $10 a month tier patrons, who are Justin Ghosty, Rogue Threads, Andrea Halusco, Sapsoro Revealed, and Chelsea Colvin. If you too would like to support my work in a little of an extra way, then please consider becoming a patron as well. I'll leave the link in the description below. Thank you again so much for joining me on this little adventure, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed it. In the comments below, tell me what you think of my breakdown of King Candy. I'd love to hear what you think. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!